Hey everyone, welcome back. So some of the students been asking me how to design a website with a Copilot function built in as a widget. I thought that was an interesting question. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to do that. So you go to HTML, for example, I have my website here called futureminds.io. There's a widget on the bottom right corner. It says Copilot. You can click on it. And then if you click on it again, it will close. So this is a chatbot that I designed to allow you to ask any questions. For example, you can say, tell me a joke. And then it will tell you a joke. Say, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything. And then the good thing about this chatbot is that it recall previous questions. For example, I could say, what question did I ask above? And then it's able to say, hey, you want me to tell you a joke? So for those of you who know this interface, this user interface is actually designed using Streamlit application. It's essentially a wrapper around HTML and CSS that is backed by the programming language Python. So, that makes my life easier because I didn't really come from a front-end developer background, and I like to keep everything in Python if I can. So to shed some light, right-click, go to View Page Source. You can see that this is how I designed the HTML with the style. This is standard CSS. And then the widget component is actually here on line 144, and that designs the shape and the frame of the widget content. In addition, there's a script with a bunch of functions defined in between. And the function here to toggle the widget is actually defined here. So this function allows me to control the widget content style, and you either display with a block style or you don't do anything, right? So this function allows the HTML to interact with the user, especially when they click on it. So with that being said, that's where the function lives. Now let's see where the function is called. So in the body of the HTML, there is a division called widget. So this class widget has a button, and the button says toggle widget, which is invoking the function that we defined above. And you give a name, right? Copilot, something like that. And then when the button is played, we have another division down here called widget content, and that actually triggers a source that is a Hugging Face space using this URL. So let's click on that and let's see what that looks like. And boom, there you go. That is your usual chatbot using Hugging Face. And then, of course, you can talk to it, things like that. So now, with that being said, this is actually an embedded space. Let me show you the real code behind this app. So you go to this URL, it will present you this app. And then the code is under files. In the files, there's a requirements that literally just two packages, and then there's an app.py. In the app.py, there is a class object of chatbot. And in that chatbot, you will initiate with a client and history. This history is a list of dictionary object that later on, when we interact with this chatbot, we will be appending content in that history so that the history will continue to grow as the conversation continues. And then in the end, you can have another function here to quickly get the history out of the object. So that is how the function is defined. And then the rest of the code is just a front-end design of the Streamlit application. So one last thing I want to show you guys, it's the Streamlit session management. So when you instantiate the Streamlit application, you want to make sure that you have a good habit of manage the session state. You want to initiate them as empty list. And then as you are continue to interact with the chatbot, you want to take a user's prompt and append that into the messages. Now, here's the thing, because this entire script is run as a whole, therefore you cannot get away with line 84. So you can only manage the history by iteratively updating the class object's history on the spot within the conversation. So within the conversation, you see line 84, we always initiate this class object with a blank history. And then the bot.history is always defined as a copy of the entire messages. And since Streamlit manages the session state of messages, the copy of these messages will be assigned to the bot.history message. If you don't have a copy, you're just going to have a duplicate message somewhere else. Or if you don't have this line of code, this API call will not remember the previous conversation or answer. So with that being said, that's how you manage the long-term conversation. And that's how you design this chatbot that can be embedded on a URL. And now you can go back to HTML. Now you have an understanding of what this URL is doing in this division called widget content. And now with that being said, let's come back to the main website. You get the idea of how this Copilot button is designed. It's essentially a button. Upon click, it will invoke the URL of the Hugging Face space. So there you go. Hopefully this video sheds some lights of how do you design a Copilot widget button on your own HTML website. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and like.